Hi, I'm Julian from BehindTheAudio.com. Welcome to our podcast. Today I'm interviewing Filippo Beck Peccoz, who made the soundtrack for Shadow Tactics, Blades of the Shogun, and the upcoming Fox and Forests. We're gonna talk about some interesting stuff today, including some more exotic projects like a roller coaster that needed sound design. So I hope you're gonna enjoy this. Without further ado, here's Filippo. Filippo, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
The latest big project that I know that you scored is Shadow Tactics, Blades of the Shogun from Mimimi Productions. But I've also heard that you've already been up to more things recently. You told me about a roller coaster for which you worked. You've been working for quite some time. You want to tell us more about that project?
Yeah, that was really weird in all positive senses kind of project for me since, I've been working on games 99% of the time since 2010. But I kind of slipped into this project, which involved a roller coaster, an actual physical roller coaster, needing audio for the whole, the whole ride, from the music to the engine noise and so on. And I found myself coding a custom system for engine noise based on speed and stuff like that, and a music that would change depending on whether the ride was starting or not. So really, really crazy stuff.
Wow. You were coding that in which context, in which environment did you do that?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of visual scripting. So I naturally gravitate towards Pure Data and Max MSP.
Right.
Basically, always been using those tools since I was in college. So I got the chance to really start something from scratch. And it was funny because we had a sound designer, the same who worked on Shadow Tactics, Philippe Cellier, and he made some sounds for the actual engine noise. And I ended up asking him, "Well, do you need another feature? Is the mixer okay like that?" And I just felt for the first time what it must mean to be a coder and make features for the sound designer. That was pretty educational, I would say.
Okay, so it all came back to you. Now you're gonna be way more humble and understanding.
I'm gonna say thank you a lot more. Yeah.
Okay, I see. So he recorded. So he did basically field recordings with, I don't know, motorcycles and everything to make the engine noises.
Well, yeah, the brief was more of a futuristic kind of sound. So I would say I think it was all synthesized stuff.
Okay.
Synthesizers and Doppler whooshes and things like that. But yeah, the cool thing about the system is that you can throw a lot of stuff at it, of course. So we also tried with some Harley recordings and stuff like that. Of course, the dream would be, should there be another iteration of this roller coaster to further explore the possibilities of that system and just see, maybe emulate a proper motorcycle sometime. We'll see what happens.
I mean, maybe that's an untapped market for people to specialize for. You can be the roller coaster guy at some point, maybe. I don't know. I didn't even know before you told me that there were. But it makes sense that there are, of course, sound designers behind everything on a roller coaster, right?
Yeah, it's really, I guess in the US it's more common to have sound designers for these rides. I was very surprised too, I have to admit. I had no idea that this is a possibility because, engine noise, engine recordings, there are a lot of people specializing in this. But strictly theme park rides, I surely don't know anyone personally who does that. So in Europe, so yeah it's pretty fun.
Yeah, and so can you tell us more about the ride itself, where it is and what the theme and name is, or is that all still under wraps?
Yeah, no, it's actually open. It has opened. it's funny because the whole way it moves is pretty new, and it's pretty silent, fortunately for me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but at the same time, they always deal with some, small problems that arise since the whole way this thing moves is new.
So what's it like? I want to Google it right now. What's its name?
Well, I don't know the technical side, so it's called Spike, and
Spike.
Spike, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Spike.da, and it's a whole concept for transportation and leisure rides and stuff like that. So we'll see what comes out of it. I'm happy that the first ride has been installed and that it works. You can actually ride on it. Yeah, I would say the main thing that sets it apart from, let's say, a passive ride is that you decide whether you can, how to say, accelerate and brake. Decide the speed within certain limits, of course. But it really feels like you're on a motorcycle, even just the shape of the thing. You're just sitting on a
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It's just for two people.
two people. Yeah, it's really crazy concept because usually they try to pack as many people as possible in for one ride. But
Yeah.
the ride itself is pretty short. But honestly, for me personally, I don't really even like roller coasters that much.
No, me neither.
But that one, once they enable this, how can I say, the possibility to accelerate or brake by yourself, it just became instantly more fun, and you also feel more safe in a way because it feels like you're sort of driving. I can't explain it. It's just a fun, different feeling suddenly.
No, I can totally imagine, because for me as a scaredy cat who doesn't like the big drops and stuff, that's something I'd really like to have it slow down if I want to and be in control a little bit. And for me as a gamer, of course, I love interactive stuff. So that's a really cool idea.
Yeah. The idea at some point in the future would be to have parallel rides.
Oh, and you can do races?
You would race someone. Yeah.
Oh.
I would say that's the main goal of the whole thing. So I hope it will happen.
Awesome. And but it's not yet in a theme park where you can access it.
The racing one not, but the small one is near Munich now, and you can race it. You can use it whenever it's not, broken down or something. But they're sorting out all the little, quirks that the ride has. Yeah.
I see. Really cool. Really niche, interesting stuff. So let's move on to something more mainstream, so to speak, with big commercial success already, which is Shadow Tactics.
Yeah.
I saw your talk at Covadis this year in Berlin, and what really struck me as interesting was the whole technical implementation. The game was built in Unity, but you had your own sound system made. As you said earlier, you had feature requests for the programmer there.
Right, yeah, exactly. We decided to stay Unity only and not go for, one of the great middlewares that are available, like Wise, Fmod, and so on. It's actually all coded in Unity. Yeah.
Interesting. And you just said we can just request and develop features on the go as we need them?
Well, it's always a sort of a conversation, I would say. It's really important for me. What I learned is to know what you're asking for and know how much work it is, more or less, of course. But and also gauge the importance of a feature. If you say, this is really, really important, I need it right now, then by all means, grab the coder and tell him. But it's sometimes for me, it can be that I say, oh, I need something super fancy, and you end up making a system that is very complex. And in my experience, oftentimes simplifying the system leads to better creative results too, for some reason. I mean, of course, it's not always true, but I have to say a lot of colleagues share this idea too, that we all want to do the interactive, super dynamic, super crazy techie stuff, but in the end, we need to serve the game itself. And at that point, you really need to understand what does the game need, what is the main focus of the music in the game. And more often than not, it's effective but simple tools that you need. Yeah,
that's true. Gareth Coker said this very similar thing recently when he said that like we always try to make all these fancy transitions and all these randomized little cues and everything, and do everything perfectly, but at the end of the day the user doesn't notice as much of the effort that we put in. And just for Ori, they just had looped tracks, and when they would cut to a different track, they would cover it up with a sound effect, and that's about it. And it works amazing with the game.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's a good example for a game that lives out of atmosphere more than anything else.
Exactly.
And so, why create a whole system that maybe endangers even the creative aspect of making the music? Yeah.
And for me, Shadow Tactics, I've gathered around 40 hours, but I still have to beat the game yet. The music works very well, but I was surprised when you said some things. For instance, you said that when you scored the game, every character of the, I think, 5 main characters has their own instrument. Is that right?
Yeah. So stemming out of this idea of what does the game need. We were looking at the play times of one single level in the game, and some people would spend over 2 hours in a map. So this was, of course, a point that we had to focus on, and just be able to serve this point of how do you solve the fact that a player can spend so much time in one level, which happen often in games. So out of that, we had basically, you can say, we had 2 approaches. One was to, let's say, spot the level, decide when we would change into a so-called linear track, like simple loops that had more of an orchestration, and I had more freedom in terms of harmony and stuff like that. And just decide where the focal points of the map was. And the other one was, okay, we have a place where we just don't know if somebody will take 10 minutes or it will take him 2 hours to solve that particular place in the level. And so I got to thinking, I wanted something that was more of a background atmospheric music, but that would very subtly just comment on which character you were using and what you were doing. And so we ended up creating like instrumental sets for each character, little stingers that would play in time on the beat to a loop that would have several layers by itself, like randomized layers based on intensity. So say you would, maybe you kill a guard with your ninja. The ninja has a set of samples, of shamisen samples, that would play like little embellishments. And they would play, harmonically in a correct way, of course, with the rest. But so it would give a flavor to how you're playing the game. So if you play the geisha, you hear a lot of koto flourishes. if you play with another one with two main characters, you would hear a combination of their two instruments, and it's all very subtle. But yeah, the idea was to generate this kind of variety out of the way the people were playing.
Awesome. So it had to be, if you say it fit the beat of the music that's already playing, it had to be paced in some way. It could only start at certain time codes so it would fit with the existing tempo, right?
Right, yeah, exactly. That's another nice feature of the sound system we made, is that I was able to insert a BPM just like in Wise, and let's say the ninja stingers, the high intensity ninja stingers can play every beat, or they have to wait maybe 2 beats or a whole bar and so on. And depending on the tempo of those background tracks and on other stuff, basically I would set them individually in these timing keys, let's say.
And did the short delays sometimes get into the way of the user experience? Like, was the feedback sometimes too late, and you said, okay, this needs to be like a half a bar earlier or something?
Yeah, it's interesting because my fear, let's say, was the same, of saying, well, if I send this musical comment later on, how will it feel? But
Yes.
Since we have we made a conscious choice of having very iconic sound effects for the killings and the attack sounds and so on. It sort of worked out of the box, because you have this iconic sound effect, and then there's a little bit of breathing space, and then you get that flourish. And so actually the music, in that sense, it's good that it has to wait a little bit, because it gives space to the sound effect, which is also very important, of course.
That's true. I actually, when I think about it, I really know the sound effects. For instance, when the girl lays her trap and somebody walks into it.
Right. Yeah.
I would like immediately know that that's hearing it in any context.
Yeah, and that's another thing that we didn't even, how can you say, there was no choice really to say, well, we have to have 10 variations of that sound effect. It's actually just one sound effect. There's no variations in this. I think there's not even like a pitch randomization. It's just that's the sound. And at first, it may sound simplistic, but making that sound and making it so that you can hear it, 100,000 times and still enjoy it, that was the goal. And I have to say, Philip, I think, made a wonderful job, because you can just recognize the sounds all the time.
It's true.
Yeah, you just never get tired of them.
Absolutely. Going back to the music side of things, for the Asian instruments, you had live performers in your studio, is that right?
Yeah, we had live performers. We had Japanese live performers, especially on Koto. That was a wonderful experience. I met this musician, Karin Nakagawa, who works in Munich. She lives just outside of Munich, and she's a wonderful performer. And just getting to know her and asking a lot of questions about the instrument and how she plays, how she tunes the thing. What's her idea of such a traditional instrument? That was just such an enriching experience just by itself.
So you didn't write all the cues and just had the people come in and play them, but you actually asked them about the techniques and like how and sort of adapted what you wrote for each instrument to how the live players would actually play them? Or did you even have them improvise a bit?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, once I set out to write the cues, I would go over them, and I would ask her if it was possible to play, or if she had to tune in the middle of the cue, or if there was something that she would prefer. Because the koto, you can tune every string with those little bridges. How do you say that you can move them around?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a big horizontal harp,
Mm-hmm.
and you can move those little pieces around to create, custom tunings. And there are, of course, a lot of traditional tunings and things like that. So, we would go over them, and she would look at the score and say, okay, this is great, or, well, actually, can you change it? This is impossible to play,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. That's also a thing. I learned a lot about that specific instrument thanks to her. But once in the studio, we had some time we allotted for improvisation, and after we played the scores and the cues and so on, especially for those sound sets that I mentioned, in this case for the Aiko, the geisha character, I just told her, imagine 3 intensities, and just express yourself on your instrument.
Oh, cool.
In very short, motifs and embellishments. And I always smile when I hear those outtakes or even those things in the game, because she has that sound. I think that it's just I love that sound. The koto is an amazing instrument, and she just it's so natural to her. She's really great.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's cool that she's just lives around the corner for you too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of effort that went into it. On that note, I wanted to ask you, like, maybe we keep winning prizes, and I've been thinking there should be an audio category or something, at least at Deutscher Entwicklerpreis.
Yeah. Especially there are some categories that are for audio, but then it's all audio, like
right.
sound, and this is sometimes, I think it's just so weird that you get an award for sound, but then they only speak about music, and it should really be divided, I would say, into music and sound, and that would be the way to go for me.
Yes, exactly. That's what I meant for your music. There should be a category. Yeah. I'm looking at it right now. There's best sound, but not best music.
Yeah, and it's just it's just 2 different worlds, and
yes.
I mean they're equally important, of course, and that's why I think it's really maybe they can throw away some other categories that nobody cares about that much. I'm biased, of course.
Sure.
But those 2 for me, they strike me as so important that they should be there already. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to something more recent that you've been doing. Fox and Forest got funded on, I think, Kickstarter, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you've gone on board and to create its soundtrack. I actually saw it. Funnily enough, the other day I was watching a video by Jim Sterling. You know the guy, is a YouTuber.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
And he had like this best of Greenlight show, and then I saw Fox and Forest, and I was like, damn, guys.
Yeah, he covered that. Yeah, I remember.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was cool. It's definitely yet another really quirky project in a way, just very unique for me, being able to write music in a Super Nintendo style. So it's very conscious about being Super Nintendo-esque, the game. It just wants to evoke this sort of nostalgia, and it takes the cues from all the classics, like Ghosts and Goblins, ActRaiser, all those gold standard classics from the 90s.
So is it only an homage in style, or are you actually restricting yourself to what a 16-bit soundtrack on the SNES chip would have, like on all the technical restrictions and all that stuff?
Yeah, actually, at first I started out saying, well, let's do it super hardcore and just, stay within the limits that you can play it on a cartridge and things like that.
Oh, wow.
At some point I realized, well, maybe I don't need to be that crazy. But at the same time, once I added some more stuff, let's say, the Super NES could play 8 voices at the same time, including sound effects. And as soon as I said, well, let's add let's not look at that so much and just add a couple more voices. It ended up not sounding right. It sounded sort of a pimped version of a Super NES, but not really that kind of sound. So in the end, those restrictions, I didn't really impose them on myself, but I felt they're necessary to get that sound.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So do you also object to more recent implementation techniques? Is the soundtrack more just loop based, or does it pull all the tricks that modern day interactive music does?
Yeah, no, we're definitely not doing a lot of interactive stuff. For instance, if you get it to the map screen and you enter a level, there's no fade out. It just gets cut, like a solid hard cut to the little loading screen. And that for me is sort of it has to be like that.
Yeah, it adds to the feel. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. We could do any kind of fade out or crossfade or things like that, but it just wouldn't work in the aesthetic of the game. So yeah, no, we definitely have super normal loops, and the only thing that we change in game is when so there's a mechanic that can switch the seasons around. There's a possibility for the player to swap from summer to winter and stuff like that.
Yeah, I saw, yeah.
And so exactly, once you engage that magical power, we just drop the whole soundtrack, the music, and we have a sort of 16-bit ambience playing for the time that the player is in that mode, let's say. Yeah.
Okay. I thought that was like part of the gameplay, and within one level you can just do that, and once you do that, you're in a different season. But it's like a separate mode or something?
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. You basically switch. You're in the same level while you play, but you switch the seasons by the press of a button. Then you can stay in that special season, let's say, all the time. There's a meter running out, and so once you're there, the music gets faded out, and we swap that with something that's much more empty in a way, and it sounds like a 16-bit ambience.
I see. When's it coming out? The game? I think I didn't find that.
I guess end of the year is planned. Yeah. So we hope that it'll work out.
Okay. All right. And so what's next? Can you tell us about something other than Fox and Forest that's coming out with your music in it?
Yeah, we're going to be working on a science fiction game that this will happen in September. It's called Starlog 1, and we're going to be working on the sound effects and the music. And I'm pretty excited because it's a first-person sort of game. It's I don't even know if I can say a lot about that, but it's
okay, sure.
Yeah, it's going to be very exciting, very different, because especially doing science fiction is always, you have so much inspiration and ideas ready to go for a science fiction game. In my case, it's just something that I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
In that, and so yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that.
Cool. And that's the guys from Wasted Studios from Munich.
Exactly, yeah. Studio Munich. Yeah.
Cool. Are you gonna work with like analog synths for that one? Because people tend to do that for sci-fi.
Yeah, definitely. I think the idea is also to explore several things, maybe going completely in the other direction and just using very acoustic sounding stuff. On the other hand, that has also been done, of course, but it's not really about reinventing the wheel. It's just seeing, how can I serve this particular game? And for me, of course, the first impulse would be synthesizers all the way. Yeah.
All right, but you'll see. You're still in the concept phase of that soundtrack.
Absolutely, yeah. Just I know the concept, and we started talking about it, but I'm gonna dive in a couple of weeks. It's gonna be time to really dive into this.
All right, cool, very nice. Okay, then I thank you very much again for being with us.
Thank you, it was a pleasure.
And I'll talk to you right after I stop the recording.
Thank you. See you then.
Yeah, see you then. Thanks a lot for listening to our podcast with Filippo today, and thanks again to Filippo for being with us. I hope you had a good time. If you did, please make sure to subscribe and check out our website for more audio news and insights. I hope you'll be back for the next podcast, and that until then you have a good time. See you.